Oh, fantastic. All right, gentlemen, we got PTI today, Probe the Industry. We got 3 topics queued up. I know last week last Monday, we had a little bit of a rollover. Very fun discussion, but we had one topic that we didn't get to. I know we usually do 3. So rolled one over into this week. So I'm very excited to get started. Yeah, we got some fun ones. We got some ones that you guys have definitely heard and definitely contemplated, I'm sure. And the first one, I know for a fact, a lot of you guys contemplated this because it's one of the most common questions that we get asked. And it has to do with hitting your protein goal. And a very, very common question that we get is, do you have to be using protein powder to hit that goal? Right? Everyone here may have even contemplated that question at some point. Right? It's super, super common. So we want to tackle it. So Jack, Gabe, let's hear it.
Yeah, this is a really common one. And when I first got into fitness, seriously, when I was maybe 16 or 17 years old, this is what I thought. I thought you had to be on a mass gainer, on a protein shake, on something. I thought this was a secret, right? And so about a month or two into actually hitting the gym seriously, I walk into the supplement shop that's right next door to our gym. It was like one of those sketchy supplement shops. Right? This is like where the hardcore bodybuilder got their super supplements behind the counter, if you know what I mean. Right. And I walked in here and it's super shady. And I'm looking around at all these supplements. I have no idea what's going on. And this lady walks up to me. She's like, "Hey, do you work out?" I'm like, "Yeah, I work out." Obviously, you couldn't tell, right? Apparently, you couldn't tell. And she kind of used that as like a pain point, right? She's like, "Oh, yeah, how long have you been working out?" Right? I said, "It doesn't look like you've been working out very long." That's all been working out for a few months. And she says, "Are you using protein powder?" I say, "No." And she says, "You're not?" And I say, "No." Oh my gosh, what do I do? Point out the best one for me, please. And she points out some mass gainer protein powder shake thing. And I had like $80 in my bank account at the time. I gave her like 74 of those dollars. And I walked out with this mass gainer protein shake. And I did see great results. But what I learned later is that it didn't require me giving up, 95% of my life savings at the time. And I could have just gotten that protein intake and that calorie intake through Whole Foods, through lean protein sources, through animal proteins. But I fell victim to the myth that the secret sauce was the protein shakes, was the supplements.
Yeah, that's when I had a experience where I came home with my protein powder. My mom thought I was on steroids or something. She's like, "Is that steroids, Jack? What are you taking over there?" But yeah, I rarely use protein powder nowadays. Mostly just get protein through my diet. But it's completely like just like, do you hit your protein goal? That's like the number one question you have to ask yourself. If you do consistently just with your diet, okay, you don't need protein powder. Cool, keep doing your thing. If you don't though, if you struggle to hit it, the whey protein is just an easy way to get it in. First thing in the morning or right after a workout, just easy shake, 20, 30 grams of protein to help supplement you. All right, supplement. That's literally what it is. Supplement your diet to help you get your protein goal. So that's the number one question I would ask yourself is, am I consistently hitting my protein goal? Based on that answer, you have, okay, maybe I should, spend $50 and get some protein powder or not.
Yeah, it's a tool in my mind, right? It's just a tool that can help you get to a goal. But ideally, you're getting your protein from a whole food source. Same thing with micronutrients, for example, like vitamins are another example of this. Ideally, you just have a well-balanced diet and you're getting all the micronutrients that you need. If you don't, then you can supplement with multivitamins and things along those lines. Same exact concept, right? If you're not hitting your protein goal, you can use a protein powder supplement. Right. And it's such a commonly used one that in my mind, sometimes I forget it's like a supplement because like for me, it was something that I used for so long because it's just so easy. Right. It's so easy. It's so fast. And that's another factor too. If you just want the speed of it,
Yeah.
like it's advantageous. If you're somebody that's cutting weight here, it's one of the leanest sources of protein you're gonna get. So you could save calories and get a shitload of protein from it as well. Just depends on your situation ultimately. But it's a tool and it can help you hit a goal. And that's what it's there for. Ideally. Yeah, go ahead again.
Yeah, that's the way I actually see it. I see it as not just a supplement that you add on top in case you can't hit your protein. And I use it purely for the speed because I can easily get 100% of my protein intake and more from Whole Foods, from my habits, from the diet that I eat for lunch and dinner. But I just like the fact that I can literally wake up in the morning and in 30 seconds shake up 40 grams of protein and down it down the gullet in 10 seconds after that. And then I'm ready to go 40 grams ahead of the day, right? Before anything else. So just the utility of the speed is why I use it, even though I could hit the protein goals through Whole Foods or not.
Yeah, and if it's not
Yeah,
like
it's a great option for
Yeah, go
for busy guys, or if you're traveling as well. Like I don't use it much like on my typical routine, but if I'm traveling, all right, I'll take it with me. Or if
Yeah.
I'm very busy, I'll have it. So it's just nice just having it there as a speed option.
Yes.
yeah, and if you really want to go hard on the speed for it as well, you can get ready to drink ones.
Mhm.
And it's going to be just as good typically, right? Like it's going to be just as good. Like that's the ultimate speed. It's just like
Mhm.
reaching my fridge. It's already, I don't have to scoop the protein. I don't have to do any of that shit, right? It's just there, shake it up, drink it, go. So if you're like, for me, I don't necessarily struggle to hit my protein goal from Whole Foods. So I'll sometimes, it depends on the grocery haul, but sometimes I'll just grab ready to drink ones just to have them on deck in case there's anything like I'm on the fly for some reason. Because if that's really the only purpose for me is like speed in a tight spot, then I might as well just get the ready to drink ones. It's a little more expensive, but I'm paying for the speed of it. So again, it's a tool and you can leverage it accordingly based on your situation and your needs.
Have you guys noticed something? Each of us always has these slightly different nutritional approaches.
Yeah.
All right, we're not robots where we do 100% keto, 100% intermittent fasting. We find what works best for us.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that? So a big part of this is applying you with the big levers, the big fundamentals that you need to do, but giving you the knowledge and the tool sets to make this work for you, your specific situation, your specific goals, your specific preferences.
Yeah. And this is part of the reason too, why you guys like, you don't have me, Jack, and Gabe on every single call. You get 3 different answers. Right? Because we're 3 different people. Ultimately, we run the same company together and we have generally similar coaching philosophies, but we're each unique individuals ourselves. Right. So that's why you have Jack on a psychology call, Gabe on a training call, me on a nutrition call. That way you can kind of get that one input. Sometimes if you have too many inputs, it's a little overwhelming, right? But again, it's situation to situation. It's unique. It depends. And ultimately, you guys everybody here has a one-on-one coach that is working full time. You guys are all with Chris. I think everybody here is with Chris. He's working full time to help you hit your goals. So if you're confused on whether or not protein powder makes sense for you, message him. Because he'll know your specific situation. He'll pull up your nutrition calendar, be like, let me see, is he struggling to his protein goal? Cool. We could add it in here, right? So that's a big reason you guys have that massive resource of somebody holding your hand through the entire program is for your specific situation. You can get a hands-on answer right in there. Right? Does that make sense for you guys in terms of how to actually get that question answered for you specifically? Cool.
Yep.
Awesome. Do you guys have any questions on this topic in general as a whole? Or even maybe you do have a question on your specific situation that we can answer just while we're here. Does anybody have one? Cool.
Well,
Yeah, what's up, Tim?
so I'm on the other end of that. Like I've always been good at getting protein, and I always try to limit carbs. So now I'm eating way more carbs. Is there a upper limit to protein? That I mean, is there when does it become not healthy? Is that even a thing?
I mean, technically, yeah, there's an upper limit, right? There's technically like an upper limit to a lot of things with protein. Technically, yeah. The odds of you hitting an upper limit and getting to a point of you being actually endangered health-wise because of excess protein is low because you're much more likely to just be so satiated before you get there.
Yeah. I'll even take it a step further and say that it is almost impossible to consume the amount of protein that requires you to hit the upper limit. It's not even that it's like unlikely. It's that like the only way they've even produced the results in the labs of people experiencing negative effects from increased protein intake is when they like directly inject like freaking protein into the cells of mice at like 1,000 times the recommended daily dose. And these mice, by the way, have some deficiency where they're genetically predisposed to like these cancerous cell growths that happen as a result of the increased protein intake. So technically, very technically, yes, reality, like if you died
Hard.
from eating too much protein, like we would fly out to your funeral and like give your family $1 billion because like you're the one person in the whole world who's that's gonna happen to.
Yeah, it's very, very hard. It's very hard. Technically, sure, but it's hard. But that was a good question, though. I don't want to like shit on the question because I know there's a narrative around, like, for example, the kidney stuff, right? A lot of people are worried about their kidney health and stuff as it comes to protein, which would actually be interesting to hear Rhodes's take. Rhodes Hambrick, who's in the group, because he's a nephrologist. So
I was born with one kidney, by the way.
yeah.
I didn't find out till my 30s.
Yeah. So for you, again, like your odds, while still slim, are technically like higher than the average person's, but they're still so slim. The other counterpart of this as well, from what I've seen, Rhodes might watch this and just completely dismantle my argument here because he's a nephrologist. But it's always been in states of dehydration that they've seen these issues. So long as you're matching the hydration to the protein intake, we typically recommend, like, for each gram of protein, have an ounce of water. And that's usually going to put you in a really good spot, like a really, really good spot. You could probably get away with like 0.9 ounces of water, 0.8. But if you're hitting near that 1 ounce per 1 gram of protein, you're matching that, you're going to be in a very, very good spot. And still, I'm not concerned about your kidney health, even having one of them.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. It'll be interesting too. Like you guys could like directly message Rhodes and ask him. I'm just like giving a call to action to like blow up Rhodes's DMs right now, but it would be interesting to hear his take. Cause I know whenever we talk about this stuff, he usually replies. He's probably going to watch this recording and say something in the group. Rhodes, if you're watching this, let us know your take, man. Do you guys have any other questions on this in terms of just protein intake as a whole?
Awesome.
All righty, gentlemen, let's do the
I
next
think
one.
your biggest problem might
Yeah.
be fat associated with proteins. If, like me, you enjoy roast lamb, for example, then or bacon, then there's quite a lot of fat passengering with the protein. So that might be
Great. Yeah, that's great.
But it's so true. I mean, I'm not a nephrologist. I'm a GP, not a dermatologist, but your kidneys, assuming they're functioning, can cope pretty well. If you're in kidney failure, then you've got to limit your protein if you're in actual kidney failure. But I'm guessing that isn't really the kind of people who are coming to this group.
Right.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And that's a great point. Because I think I put out a video on this. We talked about this on a nutrition call a few weeks ago. It was like the cut of meat matters.
Mhm.
Right? And you want to adjust it to your goals. If you're cutting weight, ultimately we're trying to get into a caloric deficit while still hitting the protein. So you want to have a leaner cut of meat. If you're somebody that's gaining weight, like Tim might be, he can get away with a fattier cut of meat because he needs the calories, right? He's trying to get into an excess. So you do want to match that cut of meat based on leanness to the goals that you have. So that's absolutely, it's a great point, Stephen.
I'll show you one of my favorite tools.
I'm ready for a guitar solo, man. I don't know what to grab.
He's getting something.
We get a live one this time, live rendition.
Yeah, that was awesome this morning. Appreciate you sending that through, Stephen. That brightened my morning.
Really, Suminagashi, Japanese and beaten. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that's
Oh yeah.
that's a really serious blade. It's turned over.
You used to cut your lamb?
I don't know if you can see it was turned over and beaten many times, so you can be so thin. And basically take this to a piece of bacon, just
Save all that fat.
skim off all the fat. We have a wood burning stove in our house, so we the fat gets wrapped up in newspaper and gets burned. So it warms the house. So
Oh, there you go.
it's not a really, when you're cooking yourself, really invest in a very, very sharp blade. There's nothing like the Japanese ones.
That might be the next nutritional health investment I make, a real sharp knife.
It might be. Yeah, I need one, man. I need one. I need one.
Yeah,
for
just
sure.
a
They have a lot of money, but they're worth having.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. That video that you sent this morning was awesome. I'm ready for
Well, thank you.
Gabe's turn to send this guitar video.
Guitar is a friend for life.
Absolutely, man. Gabe's humble about it, man. Gabe's humble about it, but he's a maestro, man. I tell him he's like John Mayer.
Because I get schooled by all the legit pros. I know there's a few musicians. I remember probably 5+ initial calls that I've had with people who've joined the team where I'm like, hey, I got a guitar too. Like, I see their guitars in the background. But now I'm gonna stick to the health and habits for now. I'm gonna get schooled by you guys.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, you guys, let's dive into the next one here. So the second topic that we have that we want to cover, and again, very common question, right? Like the protein powder is a very common question. This is another common question. If there's a list of the top 10 questions we get asked, these are both in it. The protein powder one, and then this next one is this idea of what is a healthy body weight? Super common, especially on kickoff calls when I chat with guys. They're like, hey, like this is the goal I have in mind, but like, is that a healthy body weight? Like, I don't really know. Right. And again, like my answer is going to be, it depends. And I'm sure Jack and Gabe's is going to be similar. And I think there's another metric that is of greater urgency than necessarily just the weight. But Jack and Gabe, what are your thoughts on this? What is a healthy body weight?
Yeah. So when a lot of people come to us with this question, it completely mismatches their goals. So they'll be talking, I want to look a certain way, I want to feel a certain way, I want to have this energy. And a lot of people really don't care at all about what the number on the scale says. It's literally just a number on a scale that determines how much your body weighs. It doesn't show you how healthy you are, how much muscle mass or fat mass you have, literally just how much you weigh. So I would say it's extremely overrated. There is obviously a lot of use to it, but the number that most people will want to focus on is that body fat percentage, body composition. All right. That's what's going to tell you a lot more information on how healthy you are. All right. The body composition gives you a lot more details on what this person's general health may look like compared to just a simple body weight. So that's the first thing I would think about.
Yeah, 100% agree. I have no differing opinion. If anyone's got a differing opinion, you're wrong. But that's absolutely dead on, right? The body composition is going to tell you just loads more in terms of indicating where your actual health is at, right? From your metabolic health to your cardiovascular health, to everything. I think one of the only points where I actually see this like cause some confusion when people start working with us is we'll still give you like a target body weight, right? Like a target goal, like just so you know, you can expect to be somewhere around here by week 12 if you follow our guidelines. And I'll even get people who already know, man, they're like, whoa, Gabe, like, I don't care about the body weight, right? Like I care about only the body composition and how I feel and how I look. I'm like, it's okay. Your body is actually still going to change weight, even though you're not focused on your body weight, okay? Because when you actually get healthy and do the things that create a better body composition, you end up losing so much fat even while you gain muscle that rate of fat loss typically ends up in a decrease in total body weight. But the body weight is way more just a measure to see, am I on track? Because you can see that difference almost day to day versus having to look in the mirror and just wonder, like, am I getting leaner? And it's way less of the actual end goal. It's way less of the result. It's way more of just something to make sure you're staying on track in the very, very short term.
100%. Tim, I know you have your hand raised here. Go ahead, man.
It might be a very minuscule question, but in terms of that, like I've been trying, I ended up buying a caliper,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
I measure in one place, it says it's like under 20, and in another place I'm over 30. So I'm like, I'm having no idea, like technically what I'm supposed to be doing with that thing. And because what you're saying is like, I'm up 5 to 7 pounds depending on the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in week 3, I think. And I haven't gained like with measurements or anything. Not really seeing any changes visually. So I'm thinking the caliper would be the way to go as you're talking about body fat percentage. Do you have any tips or tricks on that, using one of those?
Yeah, I have a decent bit of experience using them just from in person back in the day because I was the one manually doing them on people. And typically it's going to take an average of measurements, right? So like one area of your body might say you're like this based on this measurement, you're this percent. And then another area is totally different. Like you're saying, like you could get one that says I'm 25%, but over here I'm 18% and over here I'm 12%. And you're like, what the hell? Like, what am I? Right? Because your body's going to store fat differently. It's going to store it in different places. Everybody's different, right? So it ends up being like an average, right? You get your measurements and you do an average, and there's a calculation that you do alongside of it. So I'm not sure if you did that or not. That's one part of it. The other part that I'll tell you as well is you're going to get the best results from calipers and things like that when you have another person doing it to you versus doing it to yourself, because of how you have to bend and fold and crease yourself. And it is going to mess up the calculations, right? Third thing is human error is very real, like very, very real, right? Human error is the difference on a waist measurement, if I'm using a tape measure, between like a 35-inch waist, and sometimes it could be like 32 or 33, depending on how bad your error is, and making sure you're being consistent and you have the same tape measure. And they even have the weight things on the tape measure to make sure you're pulling the same, you're pulling with the same amount of force. Right. So like human error is very, very real when it comes to measurements like that. What I would recommend to anybody, not just you, Tim, anybody that's watching this, is if you're very curious about this number, I would do it in a way that as good as possible eliminates the human error factor, which would be something like a DEXA scan or an InBody or even an OMRA. There's still going to be error, technologically speaking, and the time of day that you do it, the food that you have, the water that you have, it's all going to impact it. But if you want to minimize just the human factor, I would recommend doing something like that. Because again, you're going to take out that factor of like, am I pulling the same? Did the same person do it? Do I have the same equipment? Like all of these other factors that could play a role. Additionally, the simplest way to just look at body fat is going to be progress pictures. And it sounds funny, but like me, Jack, Gabe, Alex, Chris, anybody that's involved with your guys' success here has looked at a whole lot of human bodies.
We've looked at a lot of half naked bodies. Okay.
We've looked at a lot of half naked dudes. We can tell you generally where you're at on that scale, right? We were talking about this last night, Gabe. We were talking about this with Andre, our buddy. We were like, yeah, we've seen enough half naked dudes that we can tell you about what your body fat percentage is based on those pictures. In worst case scenario, if we can't estimate where you're at, we can at least see progress in the week to week. We can at least see which direction that you're trending based on those pictures across time. So does that answer your question for you, Tim, in terms of like the effectiveness in that and kind of how to approach it?
Yeah. So, I mean, if I don't really need it it seems like it's not as necessary of a number for me, I guess.
Right.
I'm spending more time trying to think about getting the right number. I could average out, but
Yeah.
just trust
And I think so, especially in a muscle gain situation, right? We're constantly like looking for these indicators of progress when you don't see visual progress, right? Because visual progress is the same reason why guys who are trying to lose weight focus a lot more on the scale. You need an indicator that you're on track before you see visual progress, because it takes a while to see that noticeable visual progress. And especially in a muscle gain situation, the number one indicator of progress is going to be your performance. Okay, it's going to be your performance. Because if you're physically capable of completing more reps with more weight, can you guys all hear me?
Yeah.
Everyone good? Okay, cool. Oh, sorry, there's something going on in the chat. I was like, there you go. Awesome, Stephen. Okay. Sorry. If you're seeing improvements in your performance, it is nearly impossible that you're able to sustain continued increases in your performance if your muscles are not getting bigger and stronger, because it is the size of your muscles that quite literally determine how much force your muscles can produce, and therefore how strong you are, how many reps you can do with the weights. So if the weights and reps are going up, you know for a fact that those muscles are getting bigger and stronger. Does that make sense, Tim?
Yeah, and that's one thing that's surprising me in the first 3 weeks is that each next time I do the exercise, I can do more reps and weight. It's kind of weird, and I feel like I'm going to failure or IR of 1 or 0 each time, and then the next time it's just like it's easy. So I guess that's what I'm looking for.
Heck yeah, that's your indicator. It's the same way where, yeah, awesome. That's your indicator. It's the same way where like if I'm super deep into a dieting phase, and I'm very becoming cautious of make sure we don't lose any muscle. If sometimes I walk into the gym and I feel like I got the strength of a 7-year-old girl, I'm like, ooh, the performance, it didn't really increase today. Like, okay, we're getting deep into this diet, because that's my number one indicator immediately is if my muscles were capable of producing more force, they got bigger and stronger. And if they got bigger and stronger, I'm adding muscle, even if I didn't see it on that exact day, I will see it in the future. So absolutely.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I think to put a bow tie on it, I'm in the same camp as both of these guys, right? Where I think, again, it's very good for you to have tangible progress. And the easiest way to get tangible progress is the number on the scale, because you're going to see that first. It's the first thing that you're going to notice before you notice change in the progress pictures is how is the scale changing. So it's good to still have those marks and aim for a goal just so you guys can get the win psychologically, right? This is a big psychological thing. Is am I seeing progress? This is my tangible measure of progress. The number on the scale is dropping. Awesome. But the biggest indicator of health overall is getting to a healthy body fat composition or a body fat percentage. Sorry. That's the best way I look at it. And I think that should be everybody's main concern ultimately is what is my body comprised of? I always use myself as an example because if you look at BMI, which is purely comparing height to weight, I am borderline obese. I'm like 28.6 on BMI. 30 is obese. So I'm well into overweight. I'm almost obese because I'm 5'7", 5'8", I'm 180 pounds. But my body composition is like 12, 13% body fat. Right? Yeah, Gabe's making fun of me. Gabe, you're probably close too, bro. I wouldn't laugh too much, bro. You're probably in the same
the leanest one here. dog.
Let's put on our tinfoil hats. It's another one of those fake indicators.
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah, Gabe, I want to see your BMI, bro. You're probably in the same boat as me, dog.
My BMI? Yeah, I'm probably freaking obese on BMI, dude.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And that's why when some people ask, like, what should I target for BMI? I'm like, yeah, like, I'm not too worried about it.
I'm gonna be honest with all you. I don't know my BMI. Like dead serious. If I was
I
on,
know
like, a
mine just because I've used this
podcast,
example.
like, what's your BMI? I'd be like, I don't freaking know.
Yeah, I know mine because I've used this example so many times to like illustrate it for people, right? And that's literally the only reason I know it because it's genuinely, it's not the best indicator of health.
It's actually one of the funny things that happens when I'm on those initial calls with people talking about the program is some guys, they'll be so focused on BMI that they'll bring it up as like a goal, right? And they don't know that it's not the best indicator, and they'll be asking me like, hey, what do you think about this BMI? Like, I know this is really unhealthy BMI. Like, do you think getting to this BMI is like a good goal to have? And I'm there like, oh shit, like I should probably know what BMI, like what does that look like? And I'm just like, yeah, that's better because I literally don't know what the BMIs indicate because they're so irrelevant to your actual body composition.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too, because while I'm sitting here shitting on BMI, we all are kind of shitting on BMI. I do think, generally speaking, to most people, it's pretty accurate.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it says you're obese on BMI, for the majority of people, it's probably right. There's asterisks though. There's people that have trained for years and years and years. Like, been lifting weights for 8 years now. I've been hitting my protein goal for 8 years now, right? There's asterisks to that BMI calculator. For most people, it's pretty accurate most of the time. But you can easily get yourself to a point. I shouldn't say easily. You can get yourself to a point where you are an asterisk for that BMI scale, right? And again, generally, I'm not going to look at it, right? I'm going to look purely at like, what is the body composition, right? So that's the kind of overarching theme with what is a healthy body weight. Let me see what Jack said here. Yeah. And generally, Jack, that's going to be pretty solid, right? It's a solid starting point, but there's just so much more that goes into it than just BMI is ultimately the theme, right? Generally basing on a healthy BMI, that's a good starting ground, but it doesn't tell the whole story, right? Like last week we were talking about like skinny fat. There's people that get to a healthy BMI, but they have very minimal muscle mass, right? And they still have a high body fat composition, even though they're a healthy body weight. So they're still not healthy per se, but that number, it's a good starting point. It's a good like baseline. It's like, okay, generally, yeah, that's pretty good. Once we get there, we want to think about all these other factors as well, body composition included. Does that make sense? Do you guys have any questions on that as a whole? And I think, while we're on the topic of BMI, does anybody have a question on that as a whole? Again, even though Gabe just let you guys know that Gabe doesn't even know the BMI scale. So like, I don't know. I feel like I could maybe answer the BMI question for you guys. I don't know if Gabe can right now.
I was curious about like the body fat because I know you guys are talking a lot about like 15%, but I was like, I did like the online fat calculator, which is like that you measure your height, your neck, and your waist, and it said like it has like the Jackson and Pollard like ideal body fat for given age is like 10.1%. Is there any like merit in that? not really?
I've always used 15% as like the goal before you start micro optimizing. So like I don't think 15% is necessarily the finish line, right? I don't even think I'm at the finish line at like 12 or 13, right? See you, Tim. Thanks for hanging out, bro.
You're definitely not at the finish line, bro.
No, none of us are, right? But 15% is the number that I use for people that I'm like, okay, once you get there, you're like above average health wise for sure. Like you're above average, and you can start looking into things like fucking barefoot shoes and grass fed everything, and supplements and all that stuff. And you can start micro optimizing and worrying about stuff that's a little more advanced. That's kind of the threshold that I set is like, this is above average health once you get here, right? And you can start thinking about the more advanced stuff. Does that make sense, Jack?
Yeah, that's sick.
Okay, cool. Austin, what's up, man?
All right, so like I'm kind of just like you in this. I'm like 5'6", and right now my body weight this morning was like 161, and my goal was 160. But I've definitely lost weight. I can see my progress pictures and like everything.
Yep.
But the way my body is looking, it's not the way I want. So when I'm done with this program, I'm like, I don't know if I should keep going down or I just need to build up more muscle because I've always worked out and I can tell I have like a decent amount of muscle, but I don't want to have that skinny fat look that you were just saying.
Yep. Yeah. We talked. I think it was on PTI. We talked about this last week, or was it nutrition? I don't remember. I think it was PTI. We talked about skinny fat, and basically the one thing that I tell guys to take away to avoid that skinny fat situation is protein. Like protein intake is going to be your biggest insurance policy against that, because it's going to ensure that the work that you're putting in the gym is actually paying off and you're building muscle.
Okay.
Right. That's the one thing I say. Now, again, Jack and Gabe are probably going to have stuff that they can add to that as well. But that's the one that I tell people. I'm like, you got to focus on the protein intake now, because if you're at a body weight that you're happy with, I'm less concerned with you being in a caloric deficit. Probably going to move you to like a caloric maintenance level, and then focus heavily on the protein intake so you can build muscle and actually just change the composition without changing the body weight, because the calories are what's going to change the body weight. The protein is what's going to really change the composition.
Yeah, that's more like I don't want to be below like 160, I don't want to be, like I'm 32 years old. I don't want to be like 135 pounds,
Right.
or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, that was my question. So
yeah, Austin, how would you rate your actual like default actions at this point? Like, would you say you've locked in the habit of hitting your protein intake and getting to the gym?
Getting to the gym for sure. Protein intake is a little hard for me because I'll just go over my calories. My calories are so low; they're like 1,400.
Yeah.
And I know I just have to do more whole foods, like just leaner cuts of meat and stuff like that. Right now I am drinking a protein shake, but like the default actions I'm definitely implying them for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Got the gym locked in, ironing out the protein intake, missing on a few days, going a little over calories, right?
Yeah.
Still getting in that protein, just figuring out the most efficient way to do it, especially on some of those higher calorie days. Right. Okay, good. Fantastic. So even if you change nothing, if you're getting your protein in and hitting the gym consistently, you are doing the two things that are the cure to the skinny fat disease, right? Those are the two things that are the cure to skinny fat disease. And even if you never even figure out how to get your protein in while minimizing your calories, let's say you keep going over your calories for like the rest of your life, like somehow you never figure it out. You're the one guy who just can't figure it out, like sucks. Right. You still will have all the tools to build muscle. Right. So even if you don't get much leaner, like even if you never see a 6-pack, you're still going to be putting on muscle and moving away from the skinny fat body. Right. Because what really, we talked about this on the skinny fat call, whatever that was last week too, really the number one thing that prevents the skinny fat look is how much muscle you have. That's why we talk about protein and consistent training. Right. Because you can see somebody who is extremely well muscled, who like almost has no abs, like someone like Joey, for example, right? Just kidding. We messed with Joey. But you can see like these powerlifters in the gym, right? Who they have, almost no abs, right? But they're so well muscled, and you wouldn't say they're skinny fat, right? You wouldn't say these guys are skinny fit. You'd be like, that guy's a freaking huge gorilla. Like, oh my gosh, he can kill me. So as long as you get your protein down and your default action of hitting the gym down, you will never be skinny fat. You will never be skinny fat. If you ever move into a phase where you remove the gym or you remove your protein, you guaranteed will be skinny fat. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I think tactically speaking for you, Austin, it's something that we can do is now that you're getting close to that goal body weight, which is good. That's why you're in aggressive deficit, because we want you to get there fast. Now we can give you back calories and keep you at a maintenance. So now it's going to be way easier to hit a protein goal because you're going to get back 300 to 500 calories probably, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it would be way easier to hit it, because I was like planning out my meals. I was like, all right, so breakfast would be like Greek yogurt and like eggs and stuff.
Yeah.
And like lunch would be like chicken and rice or something, or like beef. And I was like, well, dinner, I was like, I only have like 400, 300 calories left. I'm like, how am I going to eat like a dinner has like 30 grams of protein that I need, you know? Yeah. So yeah, that was
totally. And you're at that point where we talk about like where when you start this program, you're starting at your, typically, unless there's for whatever reason it needs to change because it's not low enough. Typically for like 95% of you guys, that's gonna be the lowest calorie total that you have throughout the whole program. It's gonna go up.
Okay, cool.
Right. So like for you, you're at that point, right? Like Jack's been through it. Jack's on day 110 now, I think, right? Jack's somewhere around there where his has gone up, right? As he's gone through. Right. It's the same thing that will happen for you. It's this concept of first dieting.
Gotcha.
Right. So yeah, man, no, that's great. And I'm glad that you brought that up, dude. That's awesome. And congrats. Cause I know you're still early, bro. You're still early. Like I pulled up your profile too. Cause I was like, dude, you're like a month in and you're already at your goal. So that's awesome. Fantastic. Now we got to focus on the composition, right? Which is exactly what we just talked about.
Yeah, I definitely think I just guessed my weight because I think it was like 2 weeks before I joined the program. And I was like 175 or close to that. So I was like, yeah, I'm probably around like 175. I think it's closer to like 170, like when I started. So yeah, but I was actually impressed on how fast I'm losing weight and my energy is still up and everything. Probably because I'm just getting better sleep, I think too. But
absolutely. It's funny because like the best thing for sleep in my experience is like just using your energy. So when guys come here, like when guys come in here and they're like, damn, I'm lifting weights 3-4 times a week. I'm walking every day. I'm sleeping like a baby. I'm like, yeah, because you're actually tired.
Yeah, because you're actually tired. You're not just
you actually need it, right?
All day.
So yeah, no, that's awesome, bro. That's awesome, man. Congrats. Fantastic, you guys. That was a great question. Let's roll into this last question here. You guys ready, Jack, Gabe?
Let's roll.
This is a classic. Now, I don't actually get this question too much, but this is a classic. Everybody here has probably heard the saying, abs are made in the kitchen. I'm here to tell you it's bullshit. No, I'm just kidding. It's kind of somewhat true. But Jack, Gabe, let's break this down. Are abs made in the kitchen?
So abdominals. Every human on earth does have abdominals. All right, this is a fact of existence.
The abdominals. Yeah.
All right. So let's start with that. Everyone has them, even if you're extremely obese. You have them. They're just not revealed in the six-pack that we want. So how do we get there? Is it in the kitchen, chopping up broccoli, chicken, whatever we do in the kitchen? Or is it in the gym, training hard, flipping tires, doing random things? How do we get there? It's mostly in the kitchen. And the reason I say that is because it is significantly easier to be in a calorie deficit through your nutrition rather than activity. All right. For my personal experience, maybe you love to run around all day. Maybe that's you. So it's easy to burn a ton of calories. I don't really like to do that. I'll go for some walks. But if I'm cutting, it's mainly through the kitchen. All right. I'm focused on my nutrition way more. All right. So that is the big lever if you want to focus on doing that, because everyone has the abdominals, but to reveal them, the biggest thing you need to do is just get leaner. All right. Remove the fat, and those abdominals that every single human has will be revealed if you get lean enough.
Yep. Yeah, I think part of the reason too that I was like kind of messing around when I said it's bullshit is because like it's the most effective way, right? Like in my opinion, nutrition is number one. That's going to be the easiest way to get there. It is advantageous to make sure that you're training your core adequately, though, to actually grow those abdominal muscles too, because that'll help with the show part. But you throw it all away if you're overeating on calories and you're gaining a bunch of fat. So abs made in the kitchen, like, yeah, that's the most important part of it. But it's also going to be advantageous to make sure you're training your core and you're building those abdominal muscles, building a strong core so they actually show even better. They pop a little bit. Right. What I will say is don't fall victim to the 10-minute at home ab burner, belly fat burner ab workouts, because you can't spot target belly fat. Everybody thinks you can spot target this one specific area. And it's like, man, if I just do these crunches over and over, this belly fat's just going to melt away. No, you can't do that. You can spot target where you're building muscle. You're going to lose fat wherever your body chooses to lose fat from. So you do have to just get leaner as a whole. But that's my take on abs made in the kitchen.
Yeah. I think the nutrition answer is extremely obvious because it's easier to not eat 200 calories than it is to try to burn an additional 200 calories.
Right.
But the other thing I'll say that has actually been the answer to every single question that we've delved into today, right? Healthy body weight, right? The skinny fat problem. Are abs made in the kitchen or are they? And the big picture lesson is this: big muscles solve all your problems. Bigger muscles will solve all your problems. Okay. Because the same way that putting on muscle will decrease your body fat percentage and improve your metabolic health, and putting on muscle will prevent you from losing weight and just ending up looking skinny fat and looking like, a flap in the wind that could get blown over by the next strong gust. And putting on more muscle on your abdominals will allow your abs to look better even when you're not leaner. And so you always have this maintained look of a solid, strong, athletic core without having to get down to like 7% body fat to see a little line, pop through because your abs are non-existent. Okay. Although they're technically there, they're no different than like the abdominals that are on, the body of a small child, right? Because you've never trained your freaking abs or done anything hard or athletic in your entire life. So yes, abs are made in the kitchen and you're going to look leaner, and we all have abs and they're going to reveal themselves if you decrease body fat. But you should be training your core in some way, no matter what, even though abs are made in the kitchen. Because what that means is as your abs continue to get bigger over the course of your life, even without having to get leaner, your abs keep looking better, right? Like I am nowhere near the leanest I've ever been in my entire life. My abs look the best they've ever looked in my entire life. That's because I just continue to train my core. And Jack, I see him freaking doing all these dang leg raises every time we're in the gym between all his sets. And Joey is doing jujitsu and all this other fancy core stuff all the time. Like everybody here who has really popping abs also trains the heck out of their core all the time, right? So that's not something that'll ever leave your training regimen. If you ever want to have abs that, pop, really pop, and the more you do it, the easier it is to maintain a popping ab look, right? Because you can have even higher body fat percentages with still really aesthetically appealing abs.
Yeah. Jack, let me see here. Yeah.
Let me read this out. So Jack M here says, Jack, your suggestion of making a social commitment on test day to make sure you actually do something works annoyingly well. Every time I do it, I have no choice but to do the activity. Good. That's the point. The hardest part of doing almost anything is like the actual act of saying you're going to do it. Because you get to a point where once you say something, it becomes written fact. Like it's happening once you say it. Like I spoke out into existence. I'm doing no alcohol for this period of time. And then boom, like magic, we're on day almost 30. All right. And you're doing it as well. You're experiencing it. It works annoyingly well. It's so annoying how well it works. You simply write out a social commitment. Ah, man, shoot. I'm at the gym again. Shoot. I hit my nutrition goals again. It's so annoying.
Yeah.
That's
I
what
do the same thing. The same thing, right? Because I'm doing no alcohol too. For those of you, I don't know, some of you might have seen the tweet, right? I'm doing it as well. I said I'm going to do it for 3 months minimum. I was sitting here thinking about it. I told Gabe about it like 2 weeks ago, and I was kind of doing it. And then I was like, it's not going to feel real until I just say it somewhere. So I just tweeted it just because I just wanted it to feel real. even though I was already doing it, I'm technically like 2 weeks into it. I just said, I'm like, well, it starts now. Because I just wanted to feel official. It just feels real once you speak it out into the world and actually make it exist outside of your brain, then it works. So now I'm bought in. Now I have to stick to my 3-month promise that I made the world and all of the Twitter sphere, and you guys here that are watching it, and everybody watching the recording. So
Jack,
Really
Jack, what's the most recent social commitment you've made?
Well, like in my personal chat, just to wake up and not snooze my alarms. It's simply.
How long, simply just don't snooze, right? How long have you been able to wake up without snoozing your alarm? How many days in a row?
Say like 4 days so far. Whenever I do the commitment, it's like boom, I wake up. Like the night before, I'm like, I have to get to my gym because I have 13 hours of work and I won't be able to do it after work. So it's like after I make this commitment and then it's like 4:45, wake up, boom, go to the gym, you know.
boom.
And,
Yeah,
It's funny how like by far the hardest part of it all is saying it, saying the words, saying the social commitment. That's by far the hardest part. Once you do it, it's like, okay, I'm in, I'm doing it. Like I have to do it now. Duh.
Yeah, you just buy yourself in completely. And then if you want to be a real savage, I'm not doing this. Well, I'll do it. I mean, it's
What?
not
What are
gonna-
you
you're
not
afraid to
gonna
say it.
do,
You're afraid to
Joe?
say
what are you
it.
gonna,
Put
Experience
money,
it.
putting
All right,
money on the
everyone,
line.
This is it in real life. It's happening.
Personally, I don't feel a need to put money on the line because I wouldn't do it. But Jack put money on the line.
I would have
You
done
could do
it,
that if you want.
but I don't fail. I don't
If
fail.
you need to put money on the line, yeah, then you can do that.
If you need to, you can. I don't feel as though I need to put money on the line. But if you want to be crazy,
You're scared.
yeah. No. No. It's so easy. It'll probably end up being 6 months. It's easy.
Oh man, now he
so
said
simple.
here we go. He's up.
So
Probably.
simple.
guys, social commitments are not a new thing. It's not something we came up with. This is something that's been in play since biblical times. Like, what do we think baptism is, right? Like one of the first times Jack ever came to church with us, he like saw someone get baptized and he was like, "Oh, social commitment." I was like, "Yeah, social commitment. Like you're going public with your faith. That's what that is, right?" And of course, there's a bunch of other great reasons for doing that in the context of your faith. But 100%, that's part of what people do in their faith, because like it is understood that human behavior, you're so much more likely to stay consistent with something that you commit to publicly, right? And so that's why that's such a big step for people. So every time you speak out into the world what your next goal is, that's like you're baptizing yourself in that area of life, right? Like, hey guys, I want everybody to know, man, I'm doing this thing, all right? And I want you all to hold me accountable. And it's also very even more powerful when you make the social commitment to people who you trust and who are more important to you, right? Because just announcing it to, like, if I went to, some old family members this Christmas and like announced my business goals to them for 2023, like that wouldn't keep me accountable, because some of them I don't really even trust. I know they didn't even care. But if I went to like my buddies or my business friends and did it, like I know they're going to keep me accountable. So if you want to take it to another level, like all these guys are talking about, put money on the line, do it publicly, but do it to somebody who is going to like kick you in the ass if you don't stay on it, right? Give that public social commitment to somebody who you really trust and who you care about what they think about you.
100%.
The truth is, like, the people that you commit to, they don't do any of the work at all. They rarely hold you accountable. What really does the work is your mind, because there's loss aversion at play. You bet your status, basically. Your status as a human being. You're saying, I'm this type of human. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And if you're not consistent with that, that just hurts you, your ego, your own status. That is the thing that is at risk. That's the thing that does most of the work.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about. It's not the person at all. They don't really do anything. They don't do shit.
Yeah.
You
It's
do
just
it.
rare.
Your mind
It's
does it.
rare for somebody to follow up and be like, "Hey man, how's your thing going?"
Yeah.
Like,
That's what people say when they're like going through our program, right? And they're about to like make a mistake. They think like, "Oh, I didn't do that because I knew, Jack and Gabe and Joey would be right there the next morning asking me how the day went." And in that case, we literally hadn't done anything yet. We hadn't even asked yet. But just the fact that we were there, that they made the commitment to themselves in front of us, right, publicly, held them accountable in their own mind.
100%. 100%. All right, you guys. That was a fun one. That was fantastic. We appreciate you guys for being here. Appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come participate and contribute to this amazing discussion. So as always, we love you, dudes. We appreciate you being here. Those of you watching the recording, thank you for taking the time to watch the recording and get educated on these topics. And as always, if you guys have any questions, feel free to just drop them in the chat. Let us know. We're happy to continue this discussion inside the inner circle. All right.
Peace. Talk to you guys
Have an
soon.
amazing rest of your night. See you guys.
Yeah, gotcha.